Well, hi, everybody. Guess who this is? This is my mom. Been working on this for like 2 years because I did a video with Dad, with Josh, with Alyssa, and so the fourth person has been you.
Yeah, finally.
And you've been traveling almost as much as me the last 2 years. You're always in a different state.
Yes.
You don't go outside the country. Well, you've been in Mexico.
That's right. Uh-huh.
When were you in Mexico?
November.
How long?
About a week. I went to Rancho La Puerta for it was a spa exercise where we exercised from morning till night in my heavenly place.
My mom is very into fitness and exercise. Matter of fact, I remember at one point the doctor said you were exercising too much.
Yes, right.
And you had to exercise less.
Right.
Because you would wake up and you'd run. Then in the afternoon, this is when you were in your 60s. She's 80. You're 80?
80.
You're about to turn 80. So when she was in her 60s and 70s, she would run in the morning, then you would swim in the afternoon, then you run again at night, right?
Yes.
Am I getting that right?
Yeah.
The doctor said, Linda, you got to cut back on the exercise. How many Americans have to be told they exercise too?
Or have to eat more food and gain
Right,
weight.
you're trying to gain weight now, right?
Yeah, I got to get up to 100.
You got to get up to 100. I wish I had that problem. Actually, I don't. I have to get down to below 200. We have slightly different problems. It's weird that I came out of you.
I know, that is weird. One of the happiest days of my life was when I went to a pregnancy testing place where you didn't have in-home testing then. And I found out I was pregnant with you. I walked out of there and I literally felt like I was walking above the sidewalk, that I was floating. That was one of my...
This was 1971?
1971.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still remember. I literally thought I was floating.
So to put all this in context, you were a nun. We'll talk about that in a second. But when Dad asked you to marry him, your first thought was, oh, I can have babies now.
That's right.
And that was your big thing.
Yes.
And then you had 5 kids, but I was the first one. That's why that was such a big deal for me to come.
Yeah.
So it wasn't because of me. It was because it was the first.
Yeah, right.
14,000 children you had.
Yeah. I remember when I was in high school, one of the nuns, as I was driving out of the Catholic girls' high school, said to me, have you ever thought of going in the convent? And I felt like I got punched in the stomach. So I get physical experiences with emotional changes. I'm really in tune with my body. And I thought, oh, I want to have babies like my mom. I'm the second oldest. I have 8 brothers. I'm the only girl.
8 brothers.
And I diapered and fed the 4 younger ones from the time I was 11 till I left home at 18.
So to be clear, she's one of 9 children. You're the second oldest.
Right.
So you helped raise all the brothers.
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I always had a baby, and the baby's crib was right next to my bed. So I never had my own room, and I love that.
Yeah.
So, but then a couple weeks later, the thought about going in the convent came to me again. I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to have babies. And then it would come every day. And then
So wait, you were about 17, 18 years old?
17.
Okay.
And then finally, like a month later, I was thinking about it all the time. And
Think
I
about
woke up
being a nun or think about having kids?
No, about being a nun.
Okay.
And so I woke up one day and told my mom I'm going.
So this was early 1960s.
1960.
1960. Oh, wow. Okay.
I went in 1961.
And you were a nun for
10 years.
10 years. My God. And then you couldn't speak for 4 of those years?
Yes, so we lived in silence for 4 years, deepening our spiritual life. We spoke at lunch and dinner, and then we had an hour at night. And then
Wait, you could only say praise be to Jesus? You told me that when I was a kid.
Yes, that's right.
So when you said, instead of saying pass the salt,
Right.
say praise be to Jesus, praise be to Jesus,
Yes,
praise be to Jesus?
we did.
So is that all day or only during an hour during lunch where you could say praise be to Jesus?
No, we can actually talk at lunch and dinner.
Oh, you could talk at lunch and dinner.
But during the day, if you wanted to ask somebody something,
You had to say praise be to Jesus.
And of course, we were in college at the time, and we could answer questions in our college classes.
Oh, in class.
The
Okay.
classes were only for nuns. It was a nuns
Oh, I remember that.
college.
Okay. What did you major in college? Did you have majors?
Yeah,
Education.
I taught elementary school. I taught
When you were a nun,
I
right?
taught in Watts during the riots.
During the Watts riots. If you don't know what that is, that's 60s Watts riots. You can Google
Right.
that. That was pretty bad.
And
She
I
was there.
remember a second grade boy pulling a knife out and pointing at me in the classroom, and I knew he was scared. And so I very calmly said, Johnny, you don't want to hurt anybody, do you? And he looked at me, started to cry, dropped the knife. And I walked toward him, and then picked up the knife and called my principal. Help! I need help.
So you were
Come
like
here.
25 in this album? Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then
And then I went into the convent with 41 women, 18-year-olds. By the time we made first vows 3 years later, there were 25 of us left. By the time I made final vows for life, 8 years later, there were 7 of us left.
so you were the last generation of nuns because once the 80s hit,
Yeah.
there really were no nuns.
And
That's
4
not
of
a
my
thing
sisters
anymore.
are still there, and 3 of us have left.
They're
since then.
still there? They're still alive?
Yeah.
They're still there?
Yeah, and I just visited them last week.
You're kidding. 4?
Yeah.
So they're all in their 80s?
Yep. We're all the same age.
And they're still there? But they don't wear habits anymore, right?
No, we went out of habits. So when I met your dad, I wasn't wearing a habit.
Oh, you weren't? I thought you were.
No.
Oh, damn, that makes the story less hilarious. So wait, so when did you get rid of the habits? Like several years before Dad?
Yeah, about 2 or 3 years.
So like late 60s, they got rid of the habits?
Late 60s.
So if you don't know what habit is, that's the black and white thing that nuns used to wear. We have pictures of her
Yeah.
in the habit. You look
Yes.
like Amy. You look like my sister. Yeah. We actually have pictures. So when you met Dad, you were not wearing a habit.
Right.
You were just wearing those like plain...
Yeah, we could wear blue, white, black, or brown, those colors. And I had little short skirts and white blouses.
Yeah, okay. I remember that from school when I was taught by nuns.
Right. So after my community decided to send me into doing social work, so I left Orange County and went to Santa Rosa in 1970 to be mentored by another nun to get ready to go into social work. And they said, go find some volunteer work to do.
Yeah.
So I found that it was called The House, where your dad was the director. It was a place for kids to go who are coming off of drugs.
This is a great story.
Yeah, and so we would sit late at night and talk, and he would drive me back to the convent, and the old nuns would bolt 14 bolts the door, so I'd have to knock.
No
on the
men
window.
allowed.
Yeah, I'd knock on the window of my friend Nancy to open the door. So one day he was driving back, and he pulled off the side of the road, and I thought, what's he doing? And
So for context, you had never dated, you never done this stuff, not back then.
No, Dad and I had never kissed,
Done
or
anything, right.
held hands, anything.
You were a nun.
Right.
Yeah.
So we pulled off the side of the road, and I thought, what is he doing? He said, my community was going to send me to Dallas, Texas in 6 months to do more training. He said, when you come back from Dallas, will you be my wife? And that's when I said, now I can have babies.
I can have babies now.
Which
And-
I had not thought of for 10 years.
And so you were 28,
28.
and Dad was about 30, 31.
31,
Yeah, okay. And so you need to get special dispensation from the bishop in order to leave the convent?
Yeah, I did that. And then I had to also get dispensation from my final vows from Rome. So I waited till that came.
God,
So
how long did that take?
It took about 2 months.
Yeah, probably
so
2
I have
months.
that document in
You
Latin.
still have it? Mm-hmm. Oh my God. And your family was upset or not?
No,
They
no.
weren't. I thought they were mad.
No, they weren't.
Or they were mad that
they
Dad
were-
smoked pipes or smoked cigarettes or
That
something?
didn't bother him. They were worried that I was marrying an ex-priest. Because I called my mom and said, Mom, I'm coming home. And she was real quiet. She sensed.
Oh, she thought you were marrying a priest?
She said, are you getting married? Yes. Is he a priest? No. Oh, okay. That's okay then.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, she thought you hooked up with a priest.
Yeah.
Well, you were telling me that that happened a lot, nuns and priests.
Yes, it did. Yeah. And when I look back, I was innocent because I didn't really
Right.
know the inner lives of
yeah.
my sisters. But now as I look back and talk to people, there
You're
were
like,
other things
oh.
going on that I didn't know about because I was happy. I mean, I was so happy in the convent. I loved the spiritual life. I loved the quiet. I loved, teaching children. I loved living in community with other women. I loved, we meditated and prayed. We went into the chapel 4 or 5 times a day, my whole life.
For 10 years.
I loved all that,
My mom is always happy, and this is where I get it. I get it from you.
Yes.
I get the always happy thing from you.
Yeah.
My mom was also an extreme extrovert. I don't get that from her. That I don't know where I got that.
Yeah.
I'm the other extreme on that.
Right.
But the happiness thing,
Yeah.
you can tell by her demeanor. She's a happy
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So then you married Dad. You had me. I was the best day of your life. Now here is something really neat. We have the same birthday.
We have the same birthday.
I was born on her birthday.
Yes, he was born on my birthday. So I remember he was born at midnight, right around midnight. I was born at noon, lunchtime.
I was born at noon.
You were born at noon. I was born. That's right.
You were born at midnight. I was born at noon.
No, you know what?
What? You were born at midnight? What are you talking about?
No, we were both born at noon. Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
We were both born at like the same hour.
And I remember like about 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning thinking, I want to have this baby before by noon.
Oh, so you like...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then the date of that is April 20, which is 420. Do you know what 420 means in
Yes.
slang?
I know.
For smoking weed? You know
Yeah,
what
right.
this-
And it's also
Hitler's birthday.
Hitler's birthday. Two
Yeah.
unusual
It's
things.
great, yeah. So when I tell people in the United States 420, they go, oh, and they talk about smoking weed. When I tell Europeans, they go, oh, Hitler's birthday.
Yeah.
So do you know what the room number is of this hotel we're in right now?
No.
It's 420. This is magical.
Yeah.
It's a magical
That
moment.
kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, I know.
It happens a
Is
lot.
it God or is it the universe? Or,
I don't know. Whatever that is, all one thing, I think.
You're not 100% Catholic anymore. Is that fair to say?
I really believe that religion, people who need doctrines and religions and rules it's developed. I think it's spiritually developmental, like emotional development or physical development of a human being. That at the youngest level of development as a spiritual person is needing to have rules and regulations and people telling them what to do. And as a person grows in spirituality, the religiosity is no longer needed. It can be grades of that. And my Catholic faith is important to me. The Eucharist is important to me.
You still go to church?
And I do. I don't go all the time.
Religiously,
but,
I remember you told me once, I was very surprised to hear this. It's probably 15 years ago. You said you didn't believe in hell. And I said, what?
Yeah.
That's such a key part of because I was in a Catholic church.
Yeah.
A Catholic school for 8 years.
Yeah.
Hell is such a big deal. I said, Mom.
Yeah.
Jesus is mad at you.
No, I don't believe in that.
Yeah, but that wasn't when I was little. You believed in hell. You believed in all that stuff when I was little.
I don't know that
you weren't hardcore about it, but you.
Yeah, but I didn't really talk about it.
You didn't. No.
And my parents were we went to Catholic schools, my brothers and all.
Yeah.
But my mother and dad didn't use Catholicism to tell us what to do, and they just used it for their spirituality. So they were developed, both of them, in a deep spirituality that the religious beliefs and stuff were just kind of on the edges.
So when I was in Catholic school, and I think you told me this, they would call you about me because I would say I didn't believe in God and how concerned they were about that.
Yes.
And you were like, okay. I don't know what you said, but you just kind of laughed it off. Oh, you told me oh yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, even though you were a former nun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Because I had come to a development in my spiritual life to the deepening of the universal spirituality, and not the need for religiosity. And and religion can help people get to that point, but I think a lot of people get stuck there.
Yes.
Really, and to their own detriment and to the detriment of
Does it sound familiar? Some of this stuff is some of the stuff I talk about.
Yeah, to the
Or
detriment of people. Mm-hmm. And relationships and families and marriages.
So you're more into spirituality than you are into religion.
Yeah, because the religion should be deepening your spirituality. People get stuck in the religious stuff and the documentation that it stifles their creativity and their relationships with other people.
So it doesn't bother you, I have no religion?
No.
And has it ever bothered you?
No.
When you were younger, did it bother you?
No.
Okay.
No, just like it would my mom.
So some of your other children do have religion. Is that... I guess you wouldn't feel one way or the other about it. Like no. Amy.
That's where they are in their development.
Okay.
I think that's really important.
Why do you think you're as happy as you've been most of your life? Why do you think that is?
I just know from the time I was a little child, I knew that I'd always be taken care of, and I would love and be loved, and my life would be peaceful and easy.
Where'd that come from? Your parents?
Where'd
that come from?
I don't know.
Because a lot of your brothers don't have that opinion.
No. Now, my mom talked about when my oldest brother was born, he was a real intense baby, and my mom had a hard time with him, and his whole life he was intense. And then when I was born, she said, you would just lie there, and we thought maybe you were sick or something, and you would just kind of wince a little bit when you were hungry, and then you'd go to sleep, and then you'd smile. Mm-hmm. So I came into this world with that heart and demeanor. Hasn't changed. And probably because of that, I see the good in everybody. I've never been hurt by anybody,
Never?
emotionally or physically.
Never?
No, ever. There's been people, I had a couple of students that got mad because, they didn't get the right grade. I taught at Portland Community College. And
So to be clear, she taught school most of her life. School, college, grade school. You've taught everything.
Childbirth classes.
Childbirth classes,
Yeah.
right. You've taught everything. Yeah. That's interesting. Never hurt.
No, because
I don't think I have either.
I know that the person who's trying to get at me for some reason, it's their own limitations and their own lack of development
Agree.
and their own, what do you call it? Like
Their own problem.
Their own sadness and hurt that they experienced in their lifetime. It was not about me, and it's never about me. I just send love to them, thinking how sad that you feel like that.
So that brings up another thing. You didn't tell me this till I was in my 40s. So I didn't know this. You said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that when I was little, like 1, 2, and 3, baby, I never talked.
No.
I never spoke.
No.
So for context, you younger guys who haven't had kids yet, when you have babies, both my kids were like this. They go blah 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 blah. And my kids wouldn't shut up when they were little, little like babies.
Yeah.
So apparently I didn't talk at all.
No.
And when I wanted something, I would just point.
Yes,
And
or your sister, who
Holy
was a
shit.
year younger than you are, she talked before you did, so she would talk for you.
She did.
She would talk for you.
She go blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah blah
yeah,
blah.
right. And another thing
Okay.
is, you never crawled.
I never crawled.
You sat in one spot. Your sister was already crawling around, and you sat. And then all of a sudden, at about 16 months, you stood up and walked.
Really?
I have a feeling you didn't want to make a mistake.
That's what I was thinking. And then you and Dad thought that I was mentally deficient or something because it had been so long I hadn't talked, and you were getting ready to take me to some kind of center. And then finally one day I said, "Hello, Mother. May I have some water?"
Yes, you
Something
did.
like that.
A full sentence.
Yeah. Hello.
No baby talk. You never did baby talk.
I had no idea. You didn't. I didn't know this until
Yeah.
just a few years ago.
You were 3.
What the fuck is wrong
And
with
you
me?
didn't walk to your year and a half. You didn't crawl. You just sat and watched your
Well,
sister.
I thought because I've raised kids. So like both my kids, babies have to, first they have to learn how to roll over.
Yeah, and
that's
then
a
they have to
big, so my
sit up.
daughter took forever to roll over. She had to,
It was her body.
her body, right. My son was like, but so you roll over, then they can like push them, then they learn to crawl,
Yes.
then they learn to stand,
Yes.
then they learn to walk. That's
Yeah.
what my kids did.
Yeah.
But I didn't do any of that. I just stood up one day.
What you did
What the
is you
hell?
were watching because you didn't want to make a mistake.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You were watching and watching and watching. Same with the language thing. You were listening and taking it in. You didn't want to,
Making a mistake.
you wanted to have it complete right away.
And is that because I'm an oldest child? That's an oldest
It
child
could be that
archetype?
and your own personality, I think.
Well, then also when I was a little kid, you said, I remember some of this, if anything went wrong, I go, boy, it went wrong, and I would
Yeah.
freak out.
Yes, things
Like-
had to be just right. Like the
Yes.
cracker, cheese on the cracker had to be just right.
So-
that's firstborn.
That's firstborn. Okay, so my mom used to make me cream cheese crackers. She'd put cream cheese on the cracker. That was my favorite thing when I was a little kid. There'd be a plate full of cream cheese crackers, and then I don't remember this. Sometimes you break the cracker because you push on the
Yeah,
nitro.
yeah, and
the
you get
cracker
mad,
broke.
you would
and I go,
eat.
Mom, the cracker's broken.
Yeah.
And finally you're like, it breaks in your mouth.
But that was not the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you were a perfectionist.
But Mom, I remember reacting like that a little when I was a kid, like
Yeah.
6, 7, 8. Yes,
you
I
were
was
a
intense.
perfectionist and intense.
All the way into my early 20s, I like, and then in my mid 20s, I calmed down a little bit because I realized this wasn't going to serve me.
And then your sister is right below you, which is this is all family systems, is the complete opposite.
Family hierarchy when you have several kids.
Messy
so
and talk,
so the
blah,
middle kids are
blah.
more messy, and the younger kids are less mature.
Yeah.
And the older kids are more intense, right?
Yeah, and more connected to what other adults are doing. They're more adultified.
right.
Because they only have the adults to
Yes,
connect with.
that was definitely me. Yeah.
So we definitely see that. And there's also in other family systems, we have 5 children, there is a system where the first and the third, the second and the fourth ally. They're alliances.
That's true with us.
Yes, because you can't ally to the person next to you. The person next to you
It's too different?
is choosing to be the opposite personality as the one above them to create their own place
That's
in the
exactly
family
us.
line.
That's exactly. So it was
with
me, my sister, another sister. So I have a lot more common with the second sister
Yes.
than this one. She's almost like polar opposite of me.
Yeah.
But then that sister and the first brother are
Are
very similar.
Yes.
And then Jeremy, the youngest, has some similarity. He's obviously in his own category.
But then he's got the baby character.
The baby character, yeah.
Everybody
the
loves
youngest
me
child.
and
Right. It's so, well, that one counselor, so one of the stories, I think I told this, where, maybe I haven't told this publicly, where you wanted this is like when we were adults, like 20 years ago, each kid to come in with you, and then we had a whole session together.
Yes.
And he wanted to write a book about the 5 of us.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was doing research for a book because he wanted to do about birth order.
Oh,
and we are like exact, it's perfect. Caleb is the exact oldest brother.
Yeah, classic.
Kiki's the last child is the exact archetype of the youngest child.
Yes, right.
The middle child is exactly there. But what about me? And so it's like a Brady Bunch thing.
Yeah, we did about 20 years ago. Caleb's dad and I decided to have our family counselor meet with our 5 children together, and then to bring us in for a second session. We wanted to know how we wanted our children, how they wanted to respond and react to us as adults, and what they needed from us, and what didn't work for them as children. And I think that takes a huge sense of safety, emotional safety, to actually share that. So we did. We spent 3 hours there, and each child went around and said to me and to their dad, "This is what helped me, Mom. This is what didn't help me." And then the kids all went out to dinner, and several of them said that was one of the most powerful dinners they've ever had.
So I'll tell you one of the things I remember from that. I don't think I've told this publicly. I told this to friends. So the 5 of us were sitting around. This is when you weren't in the room.
Okay,
so just the 5 of us.
The first time.
Yeah, must be the first time.
Matt.
Right. So it's me and my 4 siblings. I have another sibling on my dad's side of the family. But so the 5 of us were sitting around, and see if I get this right. Amy, so one of my sisters, they were talking about how Caleb is different from us because he's not as emotional as us. And all 4 of my siblings are very emotional people, right?
Yes.
And I'm the least emotional one. Would you agree? Okay. So someone said, maybe Amy said, "We know Caleb loves us just in his own way." And so the counselor said, "Well, hey, Caleb, why don't you turn to your sister and say something nice?" I said, "All right." So I turned to Amy. I said something like, "When you do something nice for someone, it's genuine. It's not fake. It really comes from your heart." And this guy said, "So Amy, what do you think about that?" And Amy started going, "Well, I just think that's wonderful. And he never says anything nice." And she starts crying. And so he's trying to console Amy. And then one of my brothers, Josh, he goes, "Well, Josh, what do you think about this?" And Josh said, "Well, Caleb, I know he loves it." And he starts crying. So now Amy and Josh, so sister and brother both crying. So then all of a sudden, the other brother starts crying.
Oh, the baby.
And the counselor says, "Why are you crying?" And he points at Josh, goes, "Well, when he cries, I cry. I can't help it."
That's true. Oh, my God.
So now 2 of my brothers and one of my sisters are crying. So the final sister starts. So all 4 of them are crying. And I'm sitting like this. I'm checking my watch. Like, yeah. So they're all crying. I'm just sitting there quietly waiting.
I didn't know that.
Yes. This is from that session. Yeah. It was hilarious.
Powerful. Oh, my gosh.
It's great.
Interesting.
What do you think about, you and I have talked a little bit about, we don't go into detail about this, but my lifestyle being different. And I think you've talked about how many of your lifestyles of your children are different, not traditional.
Yes.
And it was you or Dad, maybe both of you said this independently, like most of our children follow unconventional relationship lifestyles. But in fact, only one has been 100%
That's
traditional.
right.
When you think
the middle
about
child.
It. Yeah, the middle child.
That's very true.
Yeah, the rest are, even Jason, the other brother.
Yeah. That's very true.
So when you, I don't think it bothers you today, but when I first started doing this 15 years ago, you had some concerns. You told me you had some.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of that or not?
I remember it, but then I remembered how honest you have always been in relationships with women and people and with yourself, and that I saw how happy you were. And that's all it takes for me as a mom.
Oh, okay.
But it was just new. So it's like, oh, this is a new thing to look at. That's all. It was like a new...
Because a lot of them ask about, well, my mom, what will my mom
And I
think?
came from a traditional Catholic family. And all my brothers have been married over 50 years to the same woman.
Right.
Except one is divorced.
Right.
out of all of them. But again, another thing that has me think about where we really started with you is when you graduated from high school, you sat us down and you said, Mom, Dad, I'm not going to college. And we both have master's degrees. We're thinking, okay, now he's going to model for all the other children.
Yes,
so
we were very
his
upset about
dad started to talk, and I just put my hand over his mouth. He said, so Caleb, tell us more. He said, I'm going to go into my room for 6 months and
I did?
figure out. Yeah, I'm going to stay in my room for 6 months. I'm going to read and study and figure out how I can start my own business. He's 18.
Okay. Yes. Actually, it's probably 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for 6 months he did that. All he did, he would get up late in the afternoon, come downstairs in his black bathrobe, get something to eat, get in his black car, drive to the bookstore, buy books, go to the library, come home with stacks of books, climb up and go into his room and be in there for 12 hours at a time. And he did that for 6 months. He didn't go anywhere. He didn't date. He was focused on preparing his life.
I had a part-time job at the
Not yet.
Kaiser.
You hadn't, not yet. So then in January, you came out of your room and said, okay, now I'm going to get a job. But I want to tell you, I'll only be there for a short time. Then I'm going to quit and get another job. And we're thinking, oh my gosh. Now
Dad had a problem with that.
Yeah, he's not going to have job security.
Right. My resume is going to look terrible.
So tell me more. Tell us more. He said, I need to go to different places to get different skills to develop my own business. So you went to Kaiser, you worked for Kaiser, and then quit there. You went to a bank, and you quit from there, Far West or something.
Central Point.
A couple other, and then you went to Central Point. You were there a little bit longer. And then you started saving money to buy your first house, which you did when you were 21. You moved back home for the down and bought your...
No, I was 19? I was 19.
Yeah.
19 or 20. I don't remember now. So long ago. Yes.
Yeah, and then the interesting thing, he says, now I have to have a wife. So then you made a list of characteristics.
Yes, I did that.
For the wife.
I've talked about this.
Yeah, but then he forgot to say a wife that doesn't smoke because she smoked. But then
Well, there's a bunch of things I forgot to say. What I've talked about is that I wrote down what I wanted, but not what I didn't want, because I didn't know what I didn't want because I was too inexperienced.
Yeah, you're too young.
Right.
You're only in your 20s.
That's why you have to know what you don't want.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was a baby.
you were
I was
a baby.
as old, when I got married the first time, I was as old as my daughter is now.
I know. It's like, she's not ready.
God damn.
That's right.
I was 6 years younger than my son is now.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? That's how young I was. I was a baby.
I know.
I was a child. So stupid. Yeah. But I remember about half that. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing.
Yeah. And
that helped us, that experience with Caleb
I see.
helped us to then open up to all the possibilities that our children will do with jobs and relationships, that they're going to find their own way that they'll figure it out themselves. And we're not going to put any judgments on that at all.
And I remember, this is probably 10 years ago, you and Dad both said independently to me, you used different words, but you said of the 5 children, there's 2 of you who have not settled down yet. There was me and then the oldest brother of the 2 brothers. And we're waiting for you 2 to like find someone and settle down.
Oh, interesting.
So maybe it was Dad then.
Must have been Dad. I don't think I would say
then it was Dad.
Yeah.
And Dad said that. Okay. He's like, 3 of you are good. Waiting for you, waiting for Josh.
Oh, how interesting.
And then I got married. And, okay, good. And then the other one's still not there. But I remember that. And that was like, your thing was each of the 5 children should have a house. Maybe you told me that.
Yes.
Once you have a house and you're settled, I'm gonna relax, so all 5 of my kids are settled in their lives. Dad was more like, when you find someone and you settle down with someone, when I relax. Yeah, okay. So one of the stories I've told, which they like, is, you may not remember this. This is like 2009. This is like 15 years ago, where when I was in the Tualatin house, and I had a kidney stone.
Yes.
And you had to drive me and 2 teenage girls to the airport.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Okay. I never asked you about, did that bother you back then?
No.
You sure?
No.
Well, around that time, not that moment, but like somewhere around that year, you did come to me and you said, why are you dating all these girls and what are you doing? And I remember you said that.
Yeah.
But that was like, that was during my crazy phase right after the divorce. like 2009, 2010. I don't remember you having that conversation with me.
Yeah.
It was a very brief conversation.
Yeah, right. Not really.
You weren't mad, but you're like, what?
Yeah.
What
Meaning that you're not happy.
But I was happy.
Oh. And I just assumed you weren't because you were searching.
I wasn't searching. I was having fun.
Oh. I thought,
Searching came later.
Okay. I thought you were searching and you hadn't
Oh, no.
found peace and calm.
No. At that stage, I was
that's
just out of
interesting.
divorce and I wanted to go have fun.
Yeah. Which is
and
you need
make
to
up
do
for
after
lost time.
divorce. Yeah.
Agree 100%.
You know, your dad did that after his divorce too.
I think it's very healthy for most men
Yes.
to talk about this. Yes.
Yeah,
After
I'm sure
divorce,
that's true.
men need to kind of
Figure
make up
it
for
out.
lost time. And
Yeah.
as long as it's a phase. So I know some men do this forever. They kind
Yeah.
of play around forever. And I don't think that makes men happy
There's no
long term. Yeah. But definitely I had a phase and it was a few years. But I knew, even then, I knew it was a phase. And I knew during then I said, at some point I'll settle down again. And back then I said, maybe it'll be my 50s because I'm in no rush. This is when I was in my late 30s.
I remember that, yeah.
And I said, I'll get to it. I will do that again. It'll be a different model the next time I do it and blah, 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 blah. Right.
And you were very intentional those next years in dating. You were
I'm
extremely
always
intentional and honest with women that you were with and honest with yourself. And that's what's important, not the actions itself, but the intentionality and the trust and the honesty. That's the core.
So you don't remember being bothered?
No.
Because you were bothered at one point.
I was just confused because I'd never been around anything like that. It was brand new.
I see, yeah.
So I needed time to figure that, like,
That's
it's
true.
like moving into a new house, like where you put stuff.
Yeah, I see.
It was like that.
You know what to do. Okay.
But there was no
That was very
emotion.
different in terms of your experience.
Yes.
And with your children too, and your personal
Right.
life. You've never seen.
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
brand new.
Well, no one in our family had ever done anything like that.
No.
Not even close.
No.
I mean, my brothers didn't date
No.
like that. They were either alone or they have a girlfriend
Yeah,
or something.
that's right.
Okay. And my sisters were married.
Yeah.
Well, more or less.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for doing this.
It was good,
We want to do this
honey.
for a long time.
Yeah.
Now you have the quadrant, the mom, the dad, and the two children. And the wife. Do a lot of videos with her too. But
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, sweetie. That's
All right.
good.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.